Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shawn Cyr. I'm from the University of Maine at Fort Kent, and I study forest management. A little bit about myself. I'm graduating from forestry in the next 2 weeks, and throughout my years of schooling, I've worked for a forestry company in Greenville, and now currently work for a logging company in Millinocket. So I do have some background in this topic. The subject is reporting oil spills in Maine. And to give you guys a little background, Maine has a large amount of water resources, obviously. And this is obviously something that we need to protect. That is the idea behind the current policy. And it says that every oil spill, regardless of the size, has to be reported. On paper, it sounds like a great idea, but when it's applied out in the field, it becomes impractical. The idea is that if every spill has to be reported, then that most of the largest spills will get reported. The issue is when you have to report every spill, the paperwork accompanied with the reports becomes very cumbersome, both for the logging company, the forestry company, the landowners, and even the DEP. In the forest industry, this law targets most of the logging contractors, and most responsible logging contractors are not willingly going to spill oil on the ground for two reasons. First of all, it costs them money, and secondly, this damages the ground and the vegetation where these men make their living. So they're not going to want to willingly destroy how they make their living. The issue is the process of reporting oil spills in Maine is very cumbersome, like I just said. And in order for them to be reported, there needs to be a phone call that needs to be made to DEP, whether that's from the forester, the landowner, or the logging foreman. And like where I work, from Monday morning until Thursday afternoon, we don't have cell phone signal, like at all. No landlines, nothing. There's no way to reach them. So some foresters or loggers can make it home in the middle of the day to make the phone call, but others can't. And also, even DEP, which is the enforcing agent of this policy, says that it's a very cumbersome process, that they don't need to know of every spill. If there's a couple drops of oil spilled, the loggers can just clean it up, move on with the day. It doesn't need to be documented. It's just, it wastes everyone's time. So my policy question is what needs to be done to find a balance between environmental protection and operational practicality. Maine's current process, like I said, is fairly straightforward. Someone has to make a call to DEP, and they have to answer a series of questions like what was spilled, how much was spilled, is there a threat to water, etc. The phone call is really the biggest issue. On top of the phone call, there's certain best management practices that they recommend be done, which is use appropriate containers for the storage of oils, maintain equipment outside of the filter areas, which means don't operate a piece of machinery that has the potential of leaking oil in an area where it's going to be affecting the groundwater or vegetation. Have spill kits ready. If a spill does occur, keep it from flowing into water. Know the numbers to any state agency or emergency agency, and collect and dispose of the trash properly. In my opinion, this is what really should just be done. As long as the loggers and the foremen and the foresters are keeping a good eye and cleaning up what happens, that should be good enough. The current attitudes of the current policy differ a little bit, depending on who you talk to. The landowners and the foresters, I've talked to 4 throughout my time doing this. Some were for the company in Greenville, some were with my company in Millinocket. But they all have the same idea. They're all opposed to the regulations. They say that they should just be allowed to clean it up and move on with their day and not disrupt everyone else's working time. They all believe that what I'm suggesting is a better and more practical way to conduct business. Logging contractors, a lot of them don't even understand that they have to report every spill. It's something that there's a break in information there, so they already just clean up the spill and move on with their day, and if a forester doesn't see it, then sometimes it doesn't even go reported. And that, I think, is that break in communication because the law is overcomplicated. Even DEP does say that they don't need to know every spill that happens, as I said before. Some possible models that I think should be followed are from other New England and Northeastern states. New Hampshire, for instance, they would report 3 types of spills, which would be petroleum spills that interfere with ground or surface water, any hazardous material spill that infiltrates ground or surface water, or a toxic air release, which basically means if it doesn't affect the air or the water quality, it doesn't really need to be reported as long as it's cleaned up. Information that you need to report is your name, your phone number, the name and address of any party you believe is responsible, substance spilled, how much was spilled, and the date and time of spill. I think that was almost a little too relaxed because some things should be reported on different guidelines. It shouldn't just be if water is in danger. New York, I think, has a better one. You need to report it if there's more than 5 gallons spilled, which actually is still quite a bit of oil or any type of chemical. You don't need to report it if the spill is contained and under control. If the spill has not and will not reach any state water or state land, and the spill is cleaned up within 2 hours of discovery. Required information is, there's numerous points of information, but it's essentially the same as New Hampshire. Who did it, when it happened, how much was spilled. My recommendation would be to follow a policy like New Hampshire or New York. The reporting process should have more emphasis on the cleanup and make the best management practice that I talked about earlier mandatory instead of actually making the reporting mandatory. What I believe should be the criteria for reporting is when the spill is greater than 5 gallons. If the spill is not or cannot be contained, obviously you have to have some type of emergency agency come and help you. If there's an immediate threat to ground or surface water, or there's an immediate threat to vegetation, especially like endangered vegetation or protected vegetation, what should be reported would be the name and number of whoever is reporting it, the party responsible, the date and time, the general location of the spill, if there's any proximity to a sensitive area like streams or Great Lakes or protected vegetation, and the amount and type of material spilled. That would be what I think should be reported and what the policy should be. And that's about all I have, so if anyone has any questions.